Every summer, First Tech Challenge releases Game Manual Part 1. This is a document that contains things that don't really change season to season, but it's a perfect opportunity for them to announce things that will change for the next season and give a few hints on what might be coming with next year's game. Let's dive in. In this video, we're going to focus on changes to the technology mentioned in Game Manual Part 1. If you want to learn more about changes related to inspection or judging or just general rules, make sure you are subscribed so you can see the videos that I release on those topics. Now, before we dive in, I need to point out that I don't know anything special about next season's game. Even though I help out with the local league and the local kickoff event for my region, I don't know anything about what the game will be, so don't read too much into what I have to say here. It could be nothing, or it could be a giant clue. We don't know. Let's dive into the changes from Game Manual Part 1 related to the technology for the First Tech Challenge. And the first is one we got full warning about last year. Motorola G2 and G3 phones are no longer allowed to be part of the robot controller or the driver station, and the G4 phone or G4 Play must have at least Android version 7, a version that was not originally shipped with it. It must have been already updated to it. This change was expected because we got fair warning about it from last year's Game Manual Part 1, but we get a new warning this year for changes coming next season. Starting in the 24-25 season, we will no longer be allowed to use smartphones as the robot controller device. Presumably, this means we'll still be able to use those phones as driver stations if we need to, but on the robot itself, we must use the Rev Control Hub instead. There are two rules that have been rewritten, and I won't go into all of the details of those rewrites, but suffice to say that they are much clearer now, and you should read through them very carefully to understand their implications. The first one is RE05, related to how you power the electronics on your robot. Two specific things I do want to call out is that you are not allowed to use a battery that does not have that 20 amp fuse built in line. If, for whatever reason, you cut off that fuse in order to add a different set of connectors to that battery, you will not be allowed to use that battery. This has always been the case, but it's specifically called out in Game Manual Part 1 now. Second, there are some clarifications to the situations in which you might want to use multiple power switches. You are allowed to use a secondary power switch for something, but there are clarifications on how it must be labeled and how it can be used. Also, there are some changes to which models of power switches will be allowed this year and in the future. The second rewritten rule is RE12 related to sources of light on your robot. There are some important callouts in this rule related to lasers, and I also want to call out that there is a change related to the rule about numbers on your robot that explicitly mentions lighted team numbers and the fact that they must be visible even if those lights are off. Some other changes related to technology in Game Manual Part 1, they specifically differentiate between vision cameras and vision sensors, and there is a lot of talk about April tags in the manual already. You can expect that these will play a role, especially in the vision-based navigation of the field in this year's game, and they are no longer allowed to be used on the robots themselves, probably for this reason. There's some more information available about this new vision system in the notes of the latest release of the First Tech Challenge SDK. Some additional changes that will make people happy if they're familiar with the Q&A from last year. It now explicitly calls out that you are allowed to have a 4-wire servo if that 4th wire is relaying the position of the servo. Also, it explicitly calls out deadwheel odometry systems as a commercial off-the-shelf device that can be included in the robot. Finally, there's a new gamepad available for use as part of the driver station, as long as it's configured correctly and the wireless modes are turned off. That's all the changes related to technology in this year's Game Manual Part 1, at least the current revision. If you want to learn more about changes related to judging, inspection, or general team rules, make sure you're subscribed so you can see my videos on those topics soon. In the meantime, I'll see you at the field.